What's going on there, YouTube, and welcome to Fresh Comic Stories. Guys, this is the channel where we basically sit down and cover different kinds of comic book stories. Now, guys, today we are going to cover Superman Year 1. Now, this is only the first chapter of Superman Year 1. There will be a chapter 2 coming out later on down the road, but for right now, all we have is chapter 1. Now, guys, this is written by Frank Miller. And the thing is though, guys, with this video right here, I am going to do things a tad bit different than my usual videos. Now, in this video right here, I'm going to sit down and go over the whole book. But at the very end, I am going to give my thoughts about this book. Now, I'm not going in depth. I'm going to sit down and be like, hey, I like this, I like that, and that's really it. Because when it comes to something like Year 1 for a certain character, this right here is going to be huge for the DC fan base. And so this is me kind of telling you guys how I feel, but at the same time, I want to know how you guys out there feel about this book. And so guys, please hit that like button down below and also subscribe for more comic book stories in the near future. But guys, let's dive into Superman Year 1. Now guys, when it comes to Superman Year 1, with this story right here, it's honestly Frank Miller trying to do something new. And of course, it makes sense. If you're gonna do an origin story, why not try to do something new with Superman? Now, the thing is though, guys, this book is 67 pages long. That's a long book. But the thing is though, you have Frank Miller kind of sit down and still go back over the origin of Superman. Now, when it comes to the origin of Superman though, his origin is the oldest story told when it comes to superheroes, because he was the first superhero in comics. And so it's hard to find somebody out in the world who does not know the origin of Superman. Now the thing is though, guys, you have Frank Miller tell us that Clark Kent, he saw some things before Krypton was blown up. While his parents were putting him in that rocket ship, he watched his parents cry. He watched pieces of Krypton get blown up. He watched innocent people get burned because of the explosions. Clark Kent saw a few things. Now, you do have Frank Miller kind of jump over to Earth, where Clark Kent arrived in his rocket ship and he was introduced to Jonathan Kent and Martha Kent. Now, what Frank Miller does here though is honestly giving us the ability to see the Kent family raise this young boy. Because when it comes to Clark Kent, he's different than other children. Yes, he did arrive from space, but the thing is though, he has powers, super strength, super speed, heat vision. You know, this kid has all these different kinds of powers. And so for the Kent family, they have to learn how to raise a young boy, but also a young boy with powers. There's no help out there to guide them on, hey, listen, if you have a kid that has powers, this is how you raise them. There's no guidebook out there. And so for the Kent family, it was hard, but they never gave up. They stayed there and made sure this boy had a good life. Now, you do have Frank Miller use the second half of this book as a way to introduce different characters into Clark Kent life. Now, these characters are well-known characters in DC Comics. But the thing is though, guys, at this point right here though, this is Clark Kent learning about bullying. Now, of course, Clark Kent has friends, but the thing is though, the friends he has in high school, well, they're kind of like him, nerdy. But the thing is though, they're more nerdy than he is. And so they get picked on left and right throughout the whole book. They get picked on by a bunch of bullies. And so for Clark Kent, he's kind of like, how in the world do I get rid of these bullies? And he does go ask his parents. Now, when he does go ask his parents, of course, you do have the mom say, Just leave it alone. Yes, your friends are getting picked on, but the thing is though, you have powers. And if you go out there and use your powers, well, they'll know that you're different and we're trying to hide that. But the thing is though, you have Jonathan Kent kind of like, listen, Clark, if you have the ability to stop something for the betterment of good, then do it. Go out there and help your friends, but at the same time, still be careful. And so after Clark Kent has that conversation with his parents and he goes back into school, of course, he does see his friends are being bullied again. Now, one of the people that are getting bullied is Pete. Now, Pete is an old Clark Kent friend in a lot of DC comics. And so it's Frank Miller saying, hey, here's Pete. Pete's an old friend of Clark Kent and he's in this book as well. But right now he is getting bullied. Now, you do have Clark Kent go to the bullies and he kind of gets in a fight. But the thing is though, with Clark Kent being technically the Man of Steel, unbreakable skin, he breaks one of the kids' arms. And so at that point right there, it's kind of like Clark Kent realized he has to be careful. Because yes, you did stand up for your friends, but your powers just injured another child. Now that child right there, that bully, he does get suspended. And then you have Frank Miller take the next step with bullying. Because now you have these bullies who got kicked out of school because of what they did. Now they're targeting Clark Kent friends again to the point where they're beating up on them and they're getting black eyes and bruises all over their bodies. Now, again, you have Frank Miller stick with this bullying topic to the point where it leads to Clark Kent saying he had enough. He felt like after breaking that kid's hand, it should have stopped. But now with him going out there and fighting these bullies, he made things worse for his friends. And now his friends are getting beat up on with black eyes, bruises, and cuts. Now these bullies are telling his friends, listen, we are going to kill you sooner or later. And it's all because of Clark Kent, because he protected you guys. And now we want revenge. And so, I'm sorry, my voice cracked right there. And so for Clark Kent, it's kind of like, what do? You feel like it should all end earlier, but now it's not. And so Clark Kent is kind of like, what is the next step to get rid of these bullies? Now, you do have Frank Miller bring in another character, Lana Lang. Now, Lana Lang, of course, is the first love interest in Clark Kent's life in almost every single origin story. And she knows that Clark Kent is trying to get rid of these bullies. And so what she does, she say, listen, I have pictures of them doing things, of being bad people in this town. And the thing is though, you cannot go to their parents. You cannot go to the teachers. You must go to the police. Because right now, it is getting to the point where sooner or later, they might kill one of your friends. And we need to stop them now before that happens. And so you have Lana Lang tell Clark Kent to meet up with her after dinner to talk about what their next step is going to be. Now, the thing is though, guys, while Lana Lang and Clark Kent are talking about this, of course, some other kid overhears their conversation and runs and tells the bully. And so when Lana Lang waits for Clark Kent to come over and she thinks she sees him, she's kind of like, cool, he's here. Let me show him the photos. In reality, though, it's the bullies. They ambush her and they start to beat up on her. Now, of course, at the very last minute, Clark Kent does arrive and saves the day. Now, at this point right here, you have Frank Miller do a huge time jump because you do have Clark Kent show Lana Lang that he has powers. He can fly. He has super strength, super speed. And she learns everything about him. But the thing is though, you have Frank Miller give us a huge time jump throughout the high school life of Clark Kent and say, listen, Clark Kent kept to himself. He had his nerd friends, but now he had a girlfriend. Lana Lang. And they came really close to one another to the point they start dating and start saying, hey, I love you, and let's see where this go. But the thing is though, guys, to wrap up the first chapter of Superman Year One and also this video, you do have Clark Kent tell Martha Kent and Jonathan Kent that he is going into the Navy. He's kind of like, listen, I want to see the world. The world needs me out there. And the only way I'll be able to help the world is if I go out there and be part of the world. And so you do have him go tell his parents, and he goes tells Lana Lang that he is leaving for the Navy. And then you kind of have Frank Miller wrap up the first chapter of Superman Year One with Clark Kent kind of sitting there on the bus on the way to, well, the School of Navy. I can't talk. Navy camp. You do have Frank Miller tell us that Clark Kent will always have feeling for Lana Lang because he just left her. That's his high school crush, his high school girlfriend. And so to wrap up Superman Year One, you have Clark Kent arrive at Navy camp and he says, cool, this is the next step of my life. And this is the end of Superman Year One. Now, real quick though, to kind of give my thoughts on this book, I have to say, I do like this. And this is only the first chapter of Superman Year One. And so Frank Miller can go anywhere with this. But the thing is though, right now he has me intrigued. I was reading this book at work today, and honestly, as I was going through this book, I was kind of like, I like this. The artwork, it's okay to me. But honestly, I like that Frank Miller went more in depth with the origin of Clark Kent, and it was kind of nice to sit down and see, the Kent family raised this young boy. And I mean, we have seen that multiple times in multiple origins of Clark Kent. But it's cool to sit down and read that again. Something about this book, it was kind of like, you know what? I like this. Let's see where it goes. Now, him going into the Navy, I was kind of like, okay, cool. That's different. We'll try it. Let's see what happens. But honestly, guys, I like the first chapter, and I am intrigued to see what will Frank Miller do next in the next chapter. That is the big question. Can Frank Miller keep this fan base right now he has after this first book intrigued to read more after this? Can part 2 and part 3 be good? That's the big question, and we'll find out down the road. But guys, I am going to end today's video, so please hit that like button down below and also subscribe for more comic book stories in the near future. Also, any suggestions on books I should read? Well, let me know in the comments below, because never know, your suggestion could be a future video down the road. But guys, I'm out of here, and I'll see you on the next comic book video.